Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the channel again. My name is KUMAR and we are into our first lecture for the next 40 days sprint series. And as I said earlier, we will be going according to our plan, and in this plan, first we will be dealing with the sources as planned earlier. And as you know, sources are the most important thing for history writing. You expect 4 to 5 questions from this section, so it will give you around 10 marks in paper 2. And in this lecture we are going to discuss about first we will be discussing about the archaeological sources, and later on in the next lecture we will be dealing with the literary sources. And the point why I have made 2 separate lectures on sources is that for the ancient period you are not supposed to do more than this for the sources. So in single lecture I will be dealing with all the things which is of basic nature. So if you want to go dive deep into this, you just refer the books which I have already mentioned in our plan on the right side column. So let's start, and I urge you to share the lectures with the people who are preparing for this exam in August-September, and also this is important for December cycle as well. As you know, the history is an static subject, so these lectures are important for in future as well. So let us start then. I have categorized this in 2 categories, types of sources, and first thing is archaeological sources. So whatever we find, the mounds, the inscriptions, the coins, the architecture, the monuments, the sculptures and paintings, all of these are categorized under the archaeological sources. As far as literary sources are concerned, we have categorized it into 2 subsections. As far as that ancient period is concerned, we are currently dealing with the ancient period. So in ancient period we have categorized it into Brahminical and non-Brahminical. So in non-Brahminical also, like in Brahminical sources, we will be dealing with the Vedas, we will be dealing with the Vedangas, Smritis, Puranas. Okay, so in these we will be dealing with the Brahminical literature basically. Non-Brahminical literature includes Buddhist sources, Jaina sources. In Buddhist literature we will be dealing with the Tripitakas, Deepvansa, Mahavansa, and some other Buddhist literature. The second thing we will be dealing about is about Jaina literature, and similarly some secular literature also we will be discussing, like these are of non-religious nature. Okay, this classification is based on you only. You can classify it as religious and non-religious as well instead of Brahminical and non-Brahminical. So it is up to you. It is my own classification, so it is up to you how you are classifying that literary sources. The other thing we will be discussing about is Tamil literature. Tamil literature is also very important as far as that ancient India is concerned, especially the southern India. So in that we will be dealing with that Akam and Puram type of poetries, and some of the grammatical works like Tolkapiyam and other sources which were compiled in the Tamil region. Also later on we will be dealing with the foreign accounts, and in that we will be dealing with the Greek accounts, Greco-Roman, Chinese and Arabian. You know that towards the 8th century the Arab people also were coming through that Red Sea and Arabian Sea region, and because of that in the Western India you will see that a clear indication of influence of Arab culture in the early 9th and 10th centuries, even before the arrival of the Turkish. So we will be taking up the literature written by Arabian travelers, Arabian merchants. Okay. So the next thing. Okay. So as I said, like archaeological sources section, we will be discussing about the types of archaeological sources, the dating methods, the issues related with the excavation and exploration of the archaeological sites, and later on I'll be dealing with the major sites from Neolithic period to Harappa, and later on the Chalcolithic period also I'll be covering. So based on these only, let us discuss some types of the dating. How not that a kind of dating you people are familiar with. It is dating a site, a particular site. So why it is important? So dating is important because it establishes the chronological sequence. Okay, and like if there is a mound like this, and this is having layers. These are the layers of the material remains which are found on that mound. So because of this excavation techniques, that vertical excavation technique, we will be arguing that this is the recent phase, and later on, like let's say for this is 500 years old, and it must be more than 5 years old, like 600 years old, and so on, like 700 years old. Not like that only, but the lower layers are usually of earlier period. So it is important to categorize those layers. So because of the dating techniques, we establish the chronology of a certain site. Apart from that, it also is important for the interpretation of culture based on the material remains. Let's say for some type of poetry which was found in the site of Cote d'Ivoire, and this type of poetry is also present in some of the other sites. So we categorize this, and we also make inferences that those other sites from where this type of pottery is found were contemporary. So because of that, we also interpret the cultural things based on the material remains. Apart from that, we also understand the contextual understanding and cross-culture comparison, which I have already discussed. So let's get back to our discussion on the types of dating. So I have categorized it into two categories, and based on certain things only. So the first category is the relative techniques, and the second category is absolute techniques. So in relative category or relative techniques, you will find that you are not getting an exact time period. Okay, so based on these techniques, you can only find the chronological sequence or find a certain time period, like let's say for 1,000 years old, or 2,000 years old, a million years old, like that. So you won't be getting the exact date on which that particular material remains was kept there. Okay, but in case of the absolute techniques, you will be getting the absolute number of years, absolute number of times. So not only like these like 8-10 methods, there are multiple methods. I have written only the important ones. Okay, so let's discuss the first category, which is the relative technique, and in that, the first thing we have to discuss is stratigraphy. So in stratigraphy, you already know that in what is the like meaning of that stratigraphy. So one layer after other, there is stratification of if you will go somewhere, you will see that rocks are stratified like that. Okay, so the material remains or the cultural remains of the past are also stratified like this. So because of this, earlier I also discussed, we fix the chronology. Okay, so we not in absolute terms, it is actually in relative terms. Okay, as I said, this is the recent one, and this is the older one, and this is the oldest one. So it is relative. So This is why it is kept under relative technique. Later on, as far as that typology is concerned, it is to like like based on these ideas we fix the particular type of culture, particular type of things. Okay, so we associate things like in the discussion of the importance of dating, we discuss about that cote dg pottery culture. Okay, so based on that we identify other sites as well from where that cote dg pottery is found. So this is actually a relative. Okay, so in relation to cote dg we are identifying the other sites, and also we are fixing the chronology for other sites. Apart from that, pollen analysis also, like remains of pollen in the ponds, in the sediments, in other forms, we analyze that in the labs and we fix the time period, not exact time period, a certain time period, like 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, like that. So the pollen analysis actually gives us an important insight into the environmental conditions, that hydrology of that particular region, and the nature of vegetation which was existing there, and the interaction with the humans. Okay, so not direct inferences, but it will give you an idea. Apart from that, geochronology is all about determining the age of rocks. So with this technique you will identify a particular rock with a particular age. Okay, apart from that, fluorine test and nitrogen test are used for identifying or fixation of like time period of a particular bone. So whenever we find like remains of bone from Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, so based on these tests only we fix the date, like this is 2 million years ago old, like that. Okay, so these techniques are used for that relative time period. Okay, let's get back to the discussion on obsolete technique, and the most important technique about like absolute fixation of absolute time is radiocarbon dating. You must have heard about it, or it is also called C14 dating. So C14 is an isotope of that carbon, and based on that, let's say for example there is an artifact and over the period of time, that carbon actually, like this, carbon actually settles on the surface of that particular artifact, that particular thing, and based on the layer which is settled on this surface, we identify the time period from which this particular object is associated. And for that, let's say for this much of, like this is let's say for this is 10 centimeter deposit. Okay, so half of this deposit might have been the upper half, that might have been deposited over the period of 5730 years, plus minus 40 years. Okay, so there is a buffer time of 40 years. So the half life of carbon dating is, or the carbon is 5730. This might be asked in your exam, so please remember this thing. So half life means half, like later on if we have to calculate the last half, so this will be the same as this whole period. So and later on if we will divide this into half, this will be same as this one. Okay, so the time period for carbon dating is actually limited, and beyond 50,000 years we cannot measure the time using this method. Okay, apart from that, the next technique is thermoluminescence, and this is also called TL dating. So in TL dating, what we do is we use that the beam of a light, and after like the emission of light is measured, and based on that we fix the chronology or the time period of that particular object. Later on, Potassium argon method is also important for determining the age of rocks. Basically, like you can also identify whether it is a volcanic rock or not, or the type of rock it is. So based on that, like, why you might be wondering why we consider that the age of rock, determining the age of rock in history. So let's say, for an example, if if one rock is related to, let's say, for 4 million years ago, and we find any fossil in that rock, so what does this mean? That this fossil is also this much older. Okay, so we can associate the material remains with the type of rocks we find. Apart from that, dendrochronology is also important, and dendrochronology is all about that T rings. Actually, the trees is having certain layers of rings. Okay, so based on these rings only we identify the age of this particular tree. Okay, so this is all about the dating techniques. Apart from that, we also have to discuss about the issues with the archaeological excavations in India. So the first thing, like I earlier also discussed about it, that there are two types of excavation: horizontal and vertical excavation. So in horizontal excavation, if we find a particular site here, we will just expand it horizontally. In vertical excavation, we expand it vertically towards like beneath that particular culture phase. So there is a challenge, like in India, that vertical excavation is very popular because of certain region. As you know, like we are a very populous country, and the settlement pattern, or the maybe the finances are not that adequate, so we actually are content with the vertical excavation only. So the horizontal excavation is not so popular in India because of that rigorous nature, because of the problems of finances, because of the huge population. Everywhere you will find the population in the cities. If you go for an excavation in Delhi, it will be very difficult for you to excavate a new site there. So because of these things, it is a very challenging task to do horizontal excavation in India. And this is also like, if in the horizontal excavation, as you know, you can find that the extent of that particular culture, the extent of their influence. And in the vertical excavation, you will find the layers and you will find the chronology. Okay, so in the exam also they can ask about this, which I have discussed, that what we can associate with the vertical excavation and what we can associate with the horizontal excavation. Okay, so now we are moving into the most important discussion of this lecture. Okay, because from this is the part from where they are going to ask questions, most probably based on understanding. They have also asked about this dating techniques earlier, but from here you will get the maximum questions. Like if they are asking 5 questions, you will get 3 to 4 questions from these discussions. Okay, so as you know, the Neolithic, Mesolithic and the Paleolithic period has been omitted from the syllabus. You already know that, but sometimes they ask about identification of a particular site. So in that they will give some names of Neolithic, Mesolithic and Paleolithic sites as well. So how you will identify, like if you know the major Neolithic sites, then you can just eliminate the problems, like eliminate the other options. Okay, so if that particular examiner is asking about Harappan site, and you know that these few sites are belonging to Neolithic age, then you can just eliminate these options. Okay, so this is why it is important for you to know some of the Neolithic sites as well. Not Mesolithic, we are not going into that much depth. Okay, so the Neolithic sites from like the Indian subcontinent, we have as as I said earlier that with the sites I'll be also discussing about the material remains. Okay, so from Bagor, Radanpura and Adamgarh we find the different evidences of use of copper. Okay, so copper was one of the earliest metals the humans used. Okay, later on Mehergarh, you already know that, like around 7000 BCE the food production actually started there. Okay, in Indian subcontinent, and as far as that world civilization is concerned, it started in a place called Katal Hayuk, which is in Anatolia, Turkey. Apart from that, we also find some Neolithic sites in Kashmir, and Burjhom and Gufkaral are important, and in that you will find the underground pits in the sites of Burjhom and Gufkaral. Apart from that, you will find in the eastern India also, and in the central India also, you will find the site of Narhan, Chirand is in Bihar, Razardhibi, which is in West Bengal, Dawzali Hading, which is in Assam. So the most important among these is the site of Chirand. Here you find, like we found the circular huts, pulses and other artifacts which was belonging to the Neolithic Chalcolithic period. Okay, apart from that, we have to also discuss about the Harappan civilization sites. Okay, so here I have made three columns for you, and the first column is about the early Harappan sites. So wherever that there is absence of that site in the mature phase, I have not written that in the mature phase. If a site is belonging to mature phase and there was no traces of that site in the early Harappan phase, I have not written that site here. Okay, so this is why I have made two columns for that. So early Harappan, mature Harappan, and later on in some of the sites you need to remember the excavator's name who found those sites. Okay, the most important aspect of discussion is the material remains which are found in those sites. Okay, so the first site we have to discuss is the site of Padri, which is in Gujarat. Here we find the use of script. As you know, this was an early Harappan site, so this script was one of the earliest sign of writing in the subcontinent. Okay, apart from that, the next site is Lothal, and Lothal is one of the most important site, like Lothal, Kalibangan, Dholabira. Apart from that, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, these are the most important sites. Also Rakhigadi. So these you need to remember the material remains in these 5-6 sites which I have like just discussed. So in Lothal we find the evidences of dockyard. Dockyard is something like you'll see that in the today's time period, you'll see that if a ship is going to deliver something, and in that they are parked in a dockyard. So dockyard was present in Padri. Sorry, it was present in Lothal. Okay, just because of this okay. So yeah, so next thing is brick wall for flood protection. So like if you know, like they have built a brick wall for flood protection, this clearly means that Lothal was prone to floods. Apart from that, this was the only site with the southern entrances. Apart from that, we also find the Persian seal and evidences of rice. The next site is Kot Diji, and Kot Diji was having a special type of pottery. It was the early Harappan site, and from other sites like Rahman Dehri, Gumla, we find the Kot Dijian type of pottery. Okay, so like it has been written that others from other sites also we find this type of pottery. This was the fortified settlement, as you can just associate that this was an early Harappan site. The fortification was not so common in the earliest site, so this was a fortified site, and this was the one of the most advanced early Harappan sites. Apart from that, the next site is Rahman Dehri, and Rahman Dehri was having a rectangular settlement with grid pattern. This was also the earliest example, one of the earliest examples when like that grid pattern was followed. Okay, these things you have to keep in mind. The next thing is The next site is Harappa, and Harappa, you already know that it was excavated by Dayaran Sahni, and you must have gone through that story. I think it was in class 12 NCRT, that when the Britishers were building a railway route in the western India, and I think it was somewhere in the eastern Pakistan. So that railway route was actually laid down using the bricks from Harappa. Okay, so the engineers, the workers actually took over the Harappan bricks, and they laid down the railway tracks based on those bricks. Okay, so a lot of bricks were it was during the 1870s, I think. I'm sure, I think about the year. So it was 1816 60s 70s when this thing actually happened, and the excavation of Harappa actually started in 1920s, early 20s. Okay, so you can see there is a 50 years gap for conceptualizing the site of Harappa, and this was the earliest excavated site in the Harappan civilization. This is why we term this whole civilization in the name of Harappa in archaeology. This is the most important practice. So from where we find the first evidence of a particular material remains, and later on we will find the other sites with the same material remains. We usually tend to name that particular culture with the site from where we find the first evidence. Okay, so because of that only we term this civilization as Harappan civilization. Later on, as I said, we need to discuss about the material remains. So there are multiple things we found there, but the most important thing is the worksman quarters. So people who were working in the citadel were having a special type of quarter, and these we find there. And there is 6 pairs of granaries there, which is arranged like this. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so 6 pairs of granaries are there, in which the grains were meant to kept there. And also the most important thing is the coffin burial. Okay, so it was not so popular in other sites. The next site is Kalibangan, and because of certain reason, because of that bangle making site, because it was a bangle making site, we term this site as Kalibangan. Okay, so Kalibangan is black bangle. And this site was excavated by LP Tisitori. And what are the material remains which we find there? We find the plugged field. Okay, evidences of plugged field, and only site with the mother goddess image, without the mother goddess imagery. This was the only site from where we don't find any traces of mother goddesses. Apart from that, construction of bathroom was also very common there, and also find some type of it is not actually established whether it was Sivalingam or not, but we find traces of the similar things like Sivalingam. Okay, evidence of earliest earthquake also we find from there. Okay, so next site is Banavali, and it was excavated and found by R.S. Beast. And see, in Kalibangan you will find the plugged field. Okay, you have to make this difference, and in Banavali we find the clay model of plug. Okay, so because of these two examples we can conclude that in Harappa the use of plug was very common. Okay, we also find fire altar from Banavali. Next site, which is a recently excavated site of Rakhigadi, was excavated by Amrendranath, and evidence of game similar to P2. From there we find this, and also ivory. It was an ivory making sites. So we find the traces of bones there, and P2 was actually you might have played this game. It is based on 7 stones. We had to keep like this, and with a ball we hit on this stones, and one of the person has to reassemble this. Meanwhile like ball is somewhere in the ground. Okay, you might have played this game. This is a very popular game in like when I was in my village, I used to play this game. So similar to this game, we find some evidences of the P2 game in Rathigadi. Okay, later on we have to discuss about the site of Padri. See, I'm just discussing about like not more than 20 sites, 22 sites I have covered, but there are more sites than this. But you have to remember, you have to revise this again and again, so that like if you know about these 15-20 sites, then the rest of the things you can just eliminate based on your knowledge. So you can use your peripheral knowledge for the bouncers, okay, the so-called bouncers in the exam. So yeah, next site is Padri, and in the site of Padri we find the traces of salt making, fish hook also we find that, and jar with buffalo motif. Okay, like some sort of buffalo motif is inscribed in the jars, on the outer surface of the jar. It is a type of like you can just include it in the section of sculpture. Okay, so after that and also you'll have to remember, wherever we like I have written the site name of that site twice, it means that this was also an early Harappan and mature Harappan site. Okay, and wherever I have written only one time, that either it is mature Harappan or it is early Harappan, you'll have to do this, because sometimes they will give the name of 4 sites and they will ask you to identify the early Harappan site. Sometimes they will give name of the 4 sites and they will ask you to identify the mature Harappan sites. Okay, so because based on these things you can just associate and you can just conclude that these sites are belonging to this particular period. This is the point why I have written like that. The next site is the site of Dholavira. Okay, as I said, Dholavira is one of the most important site for us. So in Dholavira we find 3 layered cities. So in the whole of Harappa, it is common, like we are having 2 type of settlement. First is called citadel and second is called the lower town, and which is you can see that the citadel was like it was comparatively on the like upper portion of the city. Okay, so but in Dholavira we find 3 layers of cities, not 2 layers. Okay, so apart from citadel and lower town, there were one more settlement. Okay, apart from that we find the traces of a stadium. We find the largest inscription, which was having 10 pictograms. You already know that that Harappans were having pictographic script, so they were not having like very well developed script. So they were their conversation was done in the pictograms, in the representation of that particular act. Apart from that, we find the traces of water conservation system in the Dholavira. Okay, one more site where we can find in Bali, we find the evidence of garlic clove. Okay, so they might ask about from where we find the evidences of garlic. So you can just tick that Bali. Okay. Apart from that, Chanudaro is one of the most important site, and it was excavated by A.G. Majumdar. And like Dholavira, this was also having some special specificities as far as the settlement is concerned. So settlement pattern was only single layered here. So there was no 2 towns here, only one town was there. Like in the whole of Harappan civilization, you will find that citadel and lower town, but here we didn't find the evidence of citadel. So this was having only one city, and it was without citadel. So we are having only lower town. Okay, and this was also famous for bed making industry, lipstick making, and we find the traces of lipstick there, and also male dancer image, which has been identified by the historians by Shiva. It is actually a controversial thing. You should not go into this, but male dancer image has also been found from here. That Pashupat seal was also found from that Mohenjo-daro, which I have not written here. So later on, we'll, like, you just remember that the Pashupat seal were actually excavated from Mohenjo-daro. Okay. Next city is Damabad, and Damabad is having that button shaped seal, which is like it was having a special type of seal. Okay, so it has been identified with Harappan script only, and this seal was having Harappan script, so we associate that culture of Damabad with Harappan civilization. Okay, so the next site is Mohenjo-daro, and it is the most important site apart from Harappa, and it was excavated by Rakhaldas Banerjee, which is R.D. Banerjee, and here we find a number of things, like there is a great bath, there is a granary, assembly hall, temple like structure, dancing girl figurines. Dancing girl figurine is also important for us. It is a 10.5 centimeter bronze imagery or bronze sculpture, and this is kept in National Museum, Delhi. So okay, I have written that Pasupat seal, and also beard priest cylindrical seal from Mesopotamia we also find there. Okay, so the next site is Rojadi, and here we find no traces of drainage, so the drainage system is absent in the site of Rojadi. Okay, so Ropar was excavated by Y.D. Sharma. I have not I have not gone into this, I have not find any special specificities with the reference of Roper, so this is why I have kept this close. Apart from that, Shortugai is also important. Here we find a clay model of the cart, that was a cattle cart actually, so we can associate that Harappans were using some sort of cattle carts for the communication, and this is also identified as a trading colony, and Harappan type of pottery is also found there, and some traces of lapis lazuli, which is a semi-precious stone. So these things indicate that Sortugai was actually a trading colony, and it was used for the trading purpose. Suktajan door was actually the westernmost site of the Harappan civilization. It is somewhere in that in Pakistan, and apart from that, Surkotada is from where we find the bones of elephant, wolf, mongoose. So these sites were important for us to discuss, and yeah, so you might be wondering why I have not covered the Chalcolithic sites. So in the I'm not going to discuss it like that, but I'll just complete it with the Chalcolithic sites here. I will make the table like this, and after making the table, after completing this PPT, I'll send it to you in the group. If you are not in the group, you just join our WhatsApp group, and also you can find us on Telegram as well. So I'll provide that WhatsApp group link and that Telegram link in the description, and you just go there and you just join the group, and from where you can just find these PPTs, so that you can remember things. So if you are new to this channel, you just subscribe the channel. It is later on we'll have to do that live lecture as well, so a certain number of subscribers is needed for that. So you just subscribe if you are new here, and you can share these lectures with the people who are needy of these things, who are actually preparing for this exam, and you are not going to find the extensive lecture like this anywhere in the digital world, because nobody is going to cover in this much depth. Okay, so after this you don't need to read any book. Okay, so wherever you need to read any book, any reading, I'll let you know. And for now, you can just, for the Chalcolithic phase, you can just refer to that V.K. Jain's book, which is Prehistory and Proto-History of India. You can just write it. So you can just refer the appendix portion of that book. So there you will find the details of the Chalcolithic sites. Okay. So until then, you just go and you just revise. You just watch this video multiple times, and I'll be making one separate playlist for this. And as I said, we will also be covering some portions from paper 1. Okay, so until then, you just watch these videos, you just give your time for the exam, and you just show that you actually are giving to 100% for this exam. Okay, so, okay, then I'll be back tomorrow with a lecture on the that literary sources, and in that also I'll be providing you with detailed list of the literature. Okay, so apart from doing that regular thing, basic things, I'll be providing you with a list of literature, and from where the questions will be asked. Okay, so until then, thank you, bye bye.